Hey everybody, welcome to the Ambition webinar all about competitions today. So pumped to have you guys join us. I'm Mary, I am Customer Communications here at Ambition, and with me is Nick Love.
Hello.
Nick is our product manager at Ambition, and he will be the one to get to show you guys all the new stuff. So before we dive in, let's do a little bit of housekeeping and go over just some quick notes that might be helpful. We will send out a recording afterwards, so if you have to hop off or something like that, no big deal. If you have any questions or comments, just type them in the chat or the Q&A, and we'll try to get to them either at the end during the Q&A portion or real time if it's applicable. Some things we're going to talk about today are the psychology as to why competitions work. So there's actually more to contests than just being a good time. Scientists have studied humans and psyche and competitive nature, and they have a lot of insight to offer for how to tap into it and make it work for you. We're also going to go over the right metrics to compete on. So in a world of KPIs and metrics and data overload, it can be a little bit confusing to know how to structure a competition around the right framework that aligns your organization and works to break down your KPIs to get to predictable, obtainable metrics to compete around. We're going to go over the key elements of a successful competition because you want it to be appealing and work. If you're going to spend time or money on it, you want it to work for you. And then we're going to share some ideas for competitions and incentives that work. So we'll have a big list to share out because that's always something that people ask about. Then we'll get to the product walkthrough where Nick will show you our newest competitions updates that are coming, and we'll go through a Q&A. So let's do it. Okay, the psychology of why competitions work. There's a lot of different theories and studies around this. Some things like social comparison theory, which is referring to the part of the psyche where humans naturally compare themselves to others around them as a way of self-motivation or to foster self-improvement. I just want to know, does this feel like what other people are doing? Is this normal? Something called last place aversion, which is exactly what it sounds like, where you work just that much harder to avoid being last. There was an article in The Atlantic around this very topic, and they presented the anecdote where if you and your friend are being chased by a bear, you don't need to outrun the bear, just your friend. So basically just working a little bit more to avoid being last. And then something also called relative standing. And if you look at the fun little question on the slide there, it says, would you rather your current yearly income be $50,000 while others earn $25,000? Or would you rather it be $100,000 and others earn $200,000? Approximately 50% of the respondents in the poll preferred a world in which they had half the real purchasing power, as long as their relative income position was high compared to their peers. So people are definitely competitive, sometimes to a fault, and you can dig in more to the science around that if you're interested. So, competitions. Sales gamification, is it just a trend? No. So we have recently done a survey. It's the State of Sales survey, and we will be sharing that out after this because we're going to share a lot of data from it. But turns out competitions are a big part of sales culture. When we did this study, 63% of the respondents said that they have either run a sales contest in the past 6 months, or 12% plan to if they haven't. So the stats are continuously showing that gamification is more than just a trend, it's a pillar of modern sales culture. And that's a great thing for you, as long as you're doing them right. And a lot of people want to know what is right. And so that's some of the things we're going to share today. The right metrics to compete on. So when it comes to high-level KPIs, the sales survey showed that managers and reps are pretty in sync around the KPIs that matter most. So if you look at the slide here, you're going to see that it's things like revenue created, pipeline generated, opportunities created, accounts closed. It's kind of a no-brainer, and the survey definitely showed, like, yeah, everyone's pretty sure that these are the things that matter. But the problem is, if these are the results that we're after, what are the activities and objectives that lead us here? What are the activity metrics or the efficiency metrics that are going to support obtaining these goals or hitting quotas around these things? So even though everyone was pretty aligned that these are the KPIs that matter most, they also shared that there was not a lot of clarity around pace, early indicators of success, or what they are supposed to be doing to hit these things.
Yeah, one note I'll add here, if there are any managers on here that need help setting up metrics from their CRM or building advanced ratios or metrics and ambition, let us know. We have a support team who's here to help, so we can help get any metric in there that you need.
Yeah, so at the end of this, you might find like, hey, we're not actually tracking all the activity and efficiency metrics that we want to, but we've got your back there. Okay, so what are those best metrics that lead to those results or outcomes that we just saw on the previous slide? Well, the best metrics to compete on are those that are 100% in your rep's control. So we spend a lot of time thinking about this very thing. We've surveyed our own customers and the industry partners to find out who is tracking what when it comes to metrics and KPIs. And this list is pretty standard for folks that understand tracking activity. So this might be a similar list to yours if you're tracking activity. We hope because you're using Ambition that you're at least tracking some activity metrics over outcomes. But it might surprise you to know that not every sales organization is. Some people have focused solely on the outcomes without giving any direction or goals to the things that achieve the outcomes. So what we say by activity is it's things that they know exactly they can sit down and do, and there's not an off chance. Like if you tell someone you've got to make 50 calls, they can either choose to do it or not, but it's 100% in their control. Same thing with time prospecting or LinkedIn activity. And there's some things that are kind of in the control, and those are objectives or efficiency metrics. So we'll get into that a little bit more too, because activity is the thing that's furthest removed from your outcomes that you're looking for. But it's the things that are going to be tracking down the funnel to get you to these outcomes. So when you think about activity metrics that you want to compete on or include, you might be wondering what your peers are doing. So in the survey, the top sales activity metric of most importance, probably not a surprise, but call activity. Every single Ambition customer that we polled tracked call activity, either daily or weekly. The sales objective that was the most tracked by 71% of our customers, meetings completed. So that's an objective that is actually further removed. There's a couple metrics to track in between the calls that you're making and the meetings that you're completing. And it's going to give you a few more metrics to think about competing on. So let's see what those efficiency metrics are. Okay. Like we just talked about in the previous slide, activity metrics are queen, but efficiency rates and efficiency metrics are going to tell you some of the quality. When we did that same poll, only 58% of our customers were looking at efficiency rates. These rates actually make really great leaderboards. They give healthy targets for your reps to shoot for. Yeah, they can definitely just smile and dial and hit that activity to win an outbound call competition, but they need a frame of reference for what is good. What is a good conversion rate when it comes to working toward the end game of quota or goal attainment? So if you think like, okay, I have a teammate that is constantly outproducing me in terms of revenue booked, but I'm constantly making more calls, like what am I doing wrong? They're wondering about their efficiency metrics. Where are they not performing that's not getting them that goal attainment? So that's why it's important to not just go for activity and outcomes, but to look at the efficiency. And here's an exact example of something like that. So if you have 2 account executives, each make 50 cold calls in the same day. Account executive 1 sets 5 meetings. Account executive 2 only sets 3. That's okay. That's cold calls and meetings set. Obviously, the person who set 5 meetings is better. But when you look at also tracking connects, it can change the story. So if this person connected with, 15 of his prospects and the other one with 30 connects to actual meetings set, the other person is doing better. They just didn't get as many people on the phone that day. They're both making the calls. They're both hitting the outcome of meetings set, but you need to look at connects, talk time, the conversion rates that actually show the efficiency and the quality. So there's more to track there, more to compete on. Some of the other examples would be like demos set to demos held. So if you're able to figure out the percentage of demos that you're scheduling that actually get completed, and you have a goal around completed demos, you'll know about how many you need to schedule to be on track to hit that goal. That's what's so helpful about the efficiency metrics. Key elements of a successful competition. We've already talked about compete on activities because they can control those things. Make sure everyone has full visibility into numbers. So real-time updates, real-time leaderboards, TVs, triggers, visibility, those things are what actually get people fired up to compete more. In our survey, visibility into the numbers was actually a bigger motivator than some of the incentives. People want to see how they're doing and they want to win. Prizes are awesome, but people want to know how they're doing, if they even have a chance at the prize or what they need to do to get the prize. If it's all hidden somewhere in a spreadsheet and tallied at the end of the month, it's just not going to be the same. So that's why we really are big proponents of the visibility, the transparency. Another thing that a lot of people overlook is motivating the middle. So if you're just doing first place competitions all the time where most calls or most meetings booked or most closed won deals, you're alienating a good portion of your team who is going to stop competing once they realize they can't win. So you have to do some other competitions that aren't just first place winners. And good ways to go about that are fantasy competitions. So the bracket week over week where people still feel like they could come in first, second, or third and they don't just give up. Or raffles are another really good one. So it's more like a game of chance. Let's say like every 50 calls made, you get a raffle ticket. Like every 50 calls is a point. And for each point you get a raffle ticket. So it's still a game of chance. You might not be in first, but you're motivated to keep going, to keep earning raffle tickets for an incentive. Those are the things that we want you to think about, not just first place finishers. Another thing to make your contest the most successful is to coach when you see some opportunity. So when we look at those efficiency metrics like we talked about, and you see that you have 2 people both making the same number of calls, both maybe the same number of connects, and one is booking way more meetings than the other, someone needs a little bit of help in understanding how to go about connecting and getting the meeting set.
Yeah, one thing I'll add here with the new competition builder, managers or admins, do you have the ability to set a min or max for each metric? So if you don't want users to make 300 emails in a day, you want them to also focus on calls or setting meetings, whatever it is, you can set a min or max, a floor or a ceiling for a specific metric. So you can help coach and drive that behavior where you need it.
Yeah, we don't want people to gamify it too much, blasting out only emails and not doing this other thing. So that's a super important thing to consider when you're setting up your competition. Another really fun one that I like to add is stir the pot. So your team is looking to leadership to set the bar for what kind of hype, energy, or trash talk is allowed. Maybe you are a culture of trash talk and you can set that tone. Maybe you're not, and that's okay. And you figure out how to be energized in other ways. But just make sure that people know that you as leadership are invested in the competition and you're stirring the pot a little bit. And the last thing to note is there have to be simple, clear rules and clearly defined incentives. And people can't have to chase down the incentive after the competition is over. If you want people to stay motivated to compete in your future competitions, Part of that is like being a good host and making sure that the incentive is awarded in a timely manner, and that we all are excited for the winner. When people are excited, even if they didn't win and they feel like they have a good chance to win next time, it's going to encourage them to want to compete more. Okay, and now for some sales contest ideas. So we have a full blog post of 10 contest ideas that we just published, and I will chat it out in just a bit so that you guys can see it. Some things from that to think about when we talk about think outside the box or get creative. We want to give you specific examples so that it's not just like marketing speak. So here's what we mean when we say think outside the box. We already mentioned the raffle, which promotes game of chance, motivates the middle. It utilizes point-based scoring. Another one that you can do that is like sort of an unofficial competition is most improved. So the reason we like this one is it encourages people to best themselves and also moves the middle. And the way this works is going to be by utilizing our most improved leaderboards that are coming soon. So it's an unofficial competition. You don't actually have to set it up in the builder. Basically put the leaderboard up on TV, and at the end of the month, whoever has improved the most over the previous month wins the incentive. Referrals are another really good one, and one that we had a lot of success actually running here on our sales team. So they're add-on meetings that you get in addition to your other meeting set. These types of meetings actually have a higher chance of closing, so that's what makes them so good, and it encourages your team to keep good relationships with customers that they feel comfortable to seek out referrals from. Another one are just themed competitions. I'm a big fan of themed anything. I say people love a theme, maybe I just love a theme, but in the blog post that I'm going to chat out, we have a Shark Week one, which is coming up. There's a really cool example of a master's competition where the prize is actually a green jacket that is embroidered. So anything that you can like holistically theme, people love that. The other thing to point out is have your reps challenge other reps, like get them involved in the creation process. This is going to depend on your permission set, so you can choose to enable or disable this, but get your reps to spark up challenges head-to-head style on the fly with each other. Okay, sales incentives. Again, some of these will be included in the blog post that's coming out, but we'll go over some here. So some kind of creative new ones that we've seen are professional development. So there's been some stats around reps are craving professional development. And the bonus for you is that it makes them better at their jobs. So why wouldn't you want to offer it as an incentive? They want it. It makes them better. It's a great one to do. This could be things like courses, master classes, send them to conference, leadership training, any of that kind of stuff. Another one, which is a game of chance, is balloon pop. So each balloon is stuffed with a piece of paper stating a prize, and the prizes range from super high end to low end, and the rep who wins the contest get to pop the balloon and see what they get. So this is a way to make alluring luxury prizes be included, but you don't have to hand them out as often. It's more of a game of chance if you're going to win that high-end prize. And there are other good ones along the way stuffed in the balloons too. Raffle tickets. I'm so hot on raffle tickets right now because it utilizes the new points-based option, and it keeps everyone engaged even if they're not going to win first place throughout the duration of the contest, which is going to add up for you to better outcomes. Some other really good ones are the $100 worth of flight vouchers to pair with like Southwest Wanna Get Away deals. So you could give someone $100 worth of flight vouchers on Southwest and they could take a weekend trip. Snooze, where they get to come in late, leave early on a Friday, is a super hot one. And you can even do this for like anyone who qualifies. So it's not just that first place finisher, but like, hey, whoever hits X number of points for calls, emails, meetings set, using the multi-metric competition builder, you guys get to leave early at a Friday. The green jacket for the masters, clean your house gift card. And one that was inspired by a customer that's really cool is drive the company car. So we have one customer, and I didn't get permission to say their name, so I'm not going to share it because I don't know if it's okay or not. But basically, they have a company Mercedes. Salesperson of the month gets to drive it for personal and work life all month long. And it is super popular with their team there. They've been running it for, I believe he said, over a year, and it has not lost the allure. People love it. So those are some really good incentives that will motivate more of your team than just first place winners and still be affordable. So now, without further ado, we are gonna check out the new stuff with the demo.
Okay. All right. All good, Mary? Got my screen. Okay. Thanks for joining, everyone. Let's do a quick demo, quick walkthrough of some of the updates to competitions. As Mary mentioned, this is a multi-metric competition builder. You can also assign points for different attributes or different metrics. So one thing I'll mention first, whenever competitions, the new competitions engine is turned on for your account, I would go ahead and take a look at your permissions manager. It's always a good time to look at, who has access to all of competitions, and also who has access to create a competition. So some companies like to give employees the ability to create head-to-head challenges so that, sales rep can come in and say, all right, I want to go against John this week, and they can go ahead and create a head-to-head challenge for them. So for the admins on the call, the managers on the call, just make sure you review your permissions whenever it's all set up. All right, next we'll look at a user's dashboard. So some changes came in here. So I look up Erin Thomas. I can see her activity score and objective score. Down below, you have her goals, and then we added a new section for competitions. So if I'm Erin, I'm on my dashboard, I can come in and see, all right, we are, we're winning this game, but I'm 25th in the Q2 Ops Challenge. So bringing more visibility to ongoing competitions, whether it's a fantasy or a challenge, right here in their dashboard. It was kind of buried over here in the feed. So we're bringing more awareness to that. All right, so I'll go to my sandbox and show you some other new manager tools here. So I'm in Manage Competitions under Admin. And here we've added some new filters. I know a lot of our customers have, dozens of competitions going on. So you can either search by name or by type. And if you have ongoing competitions going on, I can go to Competitions Overview. And over here, I have some additional filters to look at the competition name, the type, whether it's a challenge or fantasy, and even active. So I could look up, or status, I could look up active or finished competitions. All right, so some of the updates here, as you can see, the menu is a little different over here on the left, in the left-hand nav. We have an overview button, which shows you everything that's active. So if you're a manager, it'll show you all the active competitions for your employees. If you're a user, it'll show all the active competitions that you're in. So it's a little more flexible. One thing that's really nice, if I click directly into, say, this Q2 fantasy, it'll show me the scores for today or for this week's matchups. I can go in and look at the game. I can look at standings to see, who's in first, is there a tie for first, as well as schedule and prizes. So if I go back to scores, we'll go ahead and click into one of these and show you the new dashboard look and feel here. So as we mentioned, we have multi-metric competitions. So this competition is for won opportunities, new leads, and appointments held. So if you're curious how you're being scored for that, on the right side, I can see I'm getting 20 points for each opportunity that I win. I'm getting 10 points for each new lead and 5 points for each appointment held. So you can get very flexible. You drive behavior where you like, or building points as a sales rep or an employee gets further down their funnel. So you can toggle between these and see how they're stacked up to one another. The score progression shows you the team's score over time with their projection. So on Saturday, where we projected to go based on historical data and based on how well this team has performed throughout other competitions. So it's really cool. It's a new interface here. You can go in and see scores, standings, upcoming schedules. If you're in the playoffs, it'll show playoff right here, and prizes. So this is the new look and feel for a matchup for fantasy. And I'll quickly show you what it looks like for a challenge. So this challenge is just a single metric for calls. Some customers do like a recurring weekly calls leader challenge. So you can build a recurring challenge for your team. As I scroll down, if I'm on Team Gecko United, I can click on this new icon, and it'll compare my performance to the team that's in first place. So the Hawks are in first up here, and wherever I click within this leaderboard, it'll compare that team to the first place team, their performance and their projection. So it gives you more transparency, more visibility into who's doing the best. What would it take to catch them if they're ahead by 700 calls for this week? It might be tough to close that gap, but if they're only ahead by a few emails and a few calls, it gives your team a little more incentive to go in, and they know exactly what they have to do to get that win for the week. All right. I'll also show you what it looks like to build a competition now. We have a new wizard. So if you go to competitions, if you have permissions to do this, you can click on create here. First, I'm presented with two questions. Do I want to build a challenge or a fantasy? So challenge is head-to-head or team-to-team mode over a period of time. So it could be a day, a week, a month, a quarter. And fantasy is just like fantasy football, where teams play on a weekly basis, and then there's 4 weeks of playoffs. So the 4 teams that have the best win-loss record go to a playoff mode. So I'll show you how to build this really quickly. One of the coolest updates here is this smart calendar. So if I want to make this competition, say, 6 weeks long, this calendar updates with new dates showing me this competition will start on Monday, next Monday or last Monday, depending on when you start it. And it will end on Friday, July 19th. So you can play with this to fit your company's calendar. If you have upcoming events or trade shows coming up, you might want to shorten it or extend it to meet different company deadlines. You can decide when the competition will end. So a lot of teams have locations across various time zones. So you can play with when the competition ends to better fit their needs. The competition competitor selector, this is similar throughout the whole website. So one thing I'd recommend is building, if you have a Q3 fantasy coming up, you can do a draft and then build those roles or build that group directly in Ambition. So I already have these teams set up in here. So you can go in and manually select them or select all for the competitors. For scoring, this is the biggest update. So this is how the competition will be scored for single or multiple metrics, values, or points. So let's say I want to do a calls metric, and I want to do points. So for each call, I might want to do 1 point per call. But if I want to add emails as a second metric, I will do, say emails aren't as important as a call, I might do 1 point per 3 calls. So basically what that means is a call is 3 times as valuable as an email. So 1 point per 3 emails or 1 point per 1 call. You have the ability to get as flexible as you'd like for this to weight different behaviors within your team. We do have some advanced options in here, and these are documented in our new help document. So if you have teams that are odd sizes, so you have a team of 10 competing against a team of 3, you might want to select this use per user average toggle. If you have competitions or a challenge that's over a long period of time, like a full quarter, you might want to do a sum daily averages. So if you have a 2-month-long challenge or a 3-month-long challenge, that last week of the competition, it can be very difficult to increase your score if you're just using a total average. But if you sum those daily averages over time, you can see people uptick their position in the challenge even on the final day of competition. You can exclude weekends or exclude benching. They're both defaulted to exclude weekends and to allow benching. One of the biggest updates as well is in regards to benching. So I'll quickly describe that. It's also found over here in the left-hand nav for benching. So if you bench an employee and they score or they make a call while they're out of office or they're on PTO, if they're benched, that metric will not affect their team score, but it will affect their personal dashboard. So that's helpful if an employee is out of the office and they make one call. You don't want your team's average to tank. So they will be taken out of the calculation for that day or for the days that they're benched, but they'll still get credit for it on their personal dashboard so that they can hit their personal goals or accolades that fall outside of competitions. Okay, so one thing I'll mention here, you can keep going. You can add anywhere from 1 to 5 metrics here. So if you wanted to do maybe a bonus for leads, we'll say 5 points per 1 new lead. So you can get flexible and build this as custom as you'd like. And then the 4th step is optional, but as Mary talked about, this is a very important step. Want to make sure you're giving incentives to your teams that they're really excited about and that they care about to help drive their behavior. Okay, if I go back to create, I'll quickly show you the challenge form. It's pretty much identical. The only difference here is I can create recurring challenges. So if it's a daily or weekly calls leader challenge, you can set that up here. And the rest of the form is identical. There is a TV step here. So if you want to directly send that to a TV, you can add it here. In the TV builder, you can also send fantasy matchups for the week or the challenge rank for the ongoing challenge to a TV slide. So we have some new tools here. Definitely excited to share them all with you. If you don't already have competitions turned on, if you weren't a part of the early access program, this is coming very soon. So we can't wait for you to get in there and hear your feedback.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Nick. I know everyone is really excited about it. And on that note, we did have a few questions come in. So let's cover them. First one that came in was, what are the most instigating challenges for the team? And for this one, it's going to be competitions where the leader can change really quickly. It always gets people super wound up. So short time frames work best for this. Anything from an hour, 3 hours to a day long. Most connects might be a good one to spike calls and get people in a buzz or a fury, but making sure that the competition is actually around something, an efficiency metric like connects. So one that our team did recently that was super instigating was East Coast, West Coast territory challenges. And I think it was meetings booked. And so everyone was on the edge of their seat. I think the winners got Friday off, but like the real-time look into who's moving ahead was just fueling the fire. Our team actually got permission to like skip the staff meeting because they were in such a tight race that they just didn't want to leave and go to the meeting. So I think what really at the heart of it though is where the leader can change really quickly. So not something like maybe closed deals where like it takes longer, but just something that's going on in a super short period of time. And the next one, I'm going to let Nick take this one. It says, can you do percent the goal-based competitions?
So there are a couple ways to recognize individuals for their performance towards their personal target. So if you want to do that through a competition, I would definitely recommend doing a competition for either their activity score or their objective score. That allows employees in different roles or teams to go head-to-head, even though they have different metrics or targets. So that is an easy solution. But if you want to go straight for percent to target metric, you can do that through our leaderboard. which allows you to see, who's at the, the highest percent to target for their individual metric. And it'll rank them from, 1 to 20, 1 to 10, whatever you need. So that came on a TV. And then at the end of that time period, you could incentivize or give a prize for who was the highest percent to target. You could also do who was the most improved for their rank for that time period. So there are a couple ways to go about that. But yeah, definitely recommend an easy outlet is, their activity score or objective score, which takes into account their individual targets and metrics.
Okay, and this next question we got a couple times, which is, when is this going live? And I love that y'all are so hyped with me, ready to see it. So we're doing final testing, and we never want to get anyone's hopes up and share a specific date. So it's been out in the EAP, it's out there with specific customers participating in that group, and we are hoping to turn it on in the next day or two. No promises. Don't go back and tell everyone I said that it's coming tomorrow, because I don't want to guarantee it, but probably a couple days max. The cool thing is, though, you're not going to miss it. Once it does go live, there will be an in-app notification. So when you log into Ambition, if it's on, you're going to get a cool pop-up that's like, hey, y'all, this is here and ready for you to get wild. The next one is, how do reps see individuals on their team and how they're contributing toward the team number? And I'm going to let Nick speak to that.
Yeah, definitely. So this one, users can see their team members and their metrics from the team dashboard. So within the competition page itself, if it's a team-based competition, not an individual-based competition, it is difficult to see, who has contributed the most points, unless you go to the leaderboard, or to, if you're a manager, you can see analytics for that. There are countless ways to configure a team-based competition, whether you're averaging metrics, summing them, or assigning points for different metrics. So this will be a future product enhancement that's coming down the road, is to have a cleaner way to show you that formula, which is pretty complicated, in the totals for each individual. So more to come on that, but there are a couple ways to see how everyone's doing within a team or with an individual competition.
Okay, and the next one is, what are some cheap prizes? And I love this thrifty one. So in the spirit of relative standing, you might be wondering what your peers are spending or what they're doing for prizes. And 46.6% of sales leaders said that their incentive expenses add up to about 10% or less of their total budget. So then about 40% said that the incentives cost about anywhere from 11 to 50% of the budget. So everyone's budget is different, but in the spirit of affordable incentives, I go back to games of chance, like balloon pop, raffle, spin the wheel. You have a range of prizes, some high end, some low end, but it keeps people from winning like the super high end iPad every week or something. Time off kills. People love time off, and it's free. So if you can't do a full day or afternoon, sometimes like double lunchtime is sweet to do, and it gets people excited. One that I think is super outside the box, affordable, and also helps the business is the winner of the competition gets essentially paid ads on LinkedIn. So you set, like, let's say a $200 spend or $100 spend on LinkedIn ads that promote your business. They're targeted to user groups or geo, something super high targeted, and the winning rep gets all those leads. They get to field all the leads. Doesn't matter about territory, enterprise, whatever. If leads come in on your ads that you won, you get them, which just means that they're going to be that much closer to potentially closing more deals next month. One that I really love is pontoon boat rental. They're surprisingly affordable, and the salesperson is going to feel like a total hero in front of all their friends when they get to have a party on the pontoon boat. So that's what makes that one really exciting. The other two really quick, pair them up with a mentor. If you have access to like an executive board member, someone in your network who's super accomplished, like send the two of them to get coffee for 2 hours and just let them talk shop. Or maybe think about sending the winner to a conference or giving them thought leadership coaching or something, 98% of reps said that they were more likely to stay with a company if they offered ongoing development. So getting that as an award totally makes sense. And one more question that came in that says, can you edit competitions that are live? Nick.
Yeah, so there are a couple ways. And it's different if you're hosting a challenge or a fantasy. If you're hosting a challenge and you need to make a change to how it's being calculated, if you want to do maybe a sum instead of an average, or if you want to or include weekends for an ongoing challenge, you can do that at any point during the lifespan of that challenge up until it ends. So you do have a way through challenges. If you have a fantasy competition that you need to edit, any core changes must be done before the first week of matchup play is completed. So if you're 2 days into your 5-day matchup for week 1 of a fantasy competition, during that time you could change how a metric is calculated, or change the name, change the prizes, anything like that. So feel free to take a look at that. If you need to update the name or prizes for either, you can do that at any point throughout the competition. So there are a couple ways to edit live ongoing challenges and fantasies.
Awesome. So what do people do if they want to learn more?
Yeah, so definitely check out ambition.zendesk.com. We have a whole bunch of new articles that are in there, and we're updating all of our old documentation that shows you how to build a fantasy or how to build a challenge. So a bunch of new content coming your way. And if you just need help, email us at gethelp@ambition.com. So also want to say a quick thank you to all of our early access program participants. If you're interested in joining our next EAP for the next feature launch, feel free to reach out to your CSM or email us directly at gethelp@ambition.com, and we'd be happy to have your input.
Okay, y'all, I think we're about at time, and I'm so glad everyone was able to join us today. I hope you got some really good ideas for framework for good competitions, and really the concept behind like what makes a good competition, and maybe some ideas for contests or incentives. And I didn't ever get to chat out the link to the blog post, but I'm going to email it out along with the recording, the sales survey, all that good stuff. If you have any questions in the meantime, holler at GetHelp and we are more than happy to talk with you about ideas, strategy, anything like that. And we hope you will join us next time for our next webinar coming soon. Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.